Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video I'm going to be sharing with you my thoughts on patch 7.35's latest addition to Final Fantasy XIV, the Pilgrim's Traverse, and more importantly, the new quantum difficulty that they added in. This feature, specifically quantum, has been something that a lot of people have been wondering if it would work, if it was going to be something that really reinvigorated Final Fantasy XIV, and while I never had such ideas of grandeur, it was made such a focus in the last live letter before patch 7.3 came out that I feel like, as someone who has played this game for over a decade at this point, I'll share my perspective on if I think this little experiment went well, if they can improve on it in any particular ways, etc., etc. Before we get started, the sponsor for this video is Magic Spoon. Yeah, they sponsor my videos a lot, and I'm super grateful for it. I mean, they make a high-protein cereal and snack products that anyone can enjoy for any diet, and that matters a lot to me, especially in the last few years. I get a box every month, and I use it to shake up my daily eating, though admittedly, sometimes I go a little overboard. I actually went through the treat bars so fast this month that the only footage I have of me eating one is on my podcast. Yeah, I just ate the rest of them before recording because I couldn't stop myself. Fortunately, I love a handful of their cereal just as much, so I saved some of my favorite flavor, the maple waffle flavor, to eat some of that for this ad. So if you'd like to try Magic Spoon while also supporting the channel, then click the link below to get some today. Build your own custom box of products with tons of available flavors. Definitely recommend the maple waffle if you're getting some cereal to match your daily needs. Best of all, use my link and discount code Mr. Happy to get $5 off your box. You can also buy it at your local grocery store or even on Amazon if that's more convenient for you. And if you don't like it, Magic Spoon has a 100% happiness guarantee. Let them know and they'll refund you, no questions asked. So click the link below or scan the QR code on the screen and use code Mr. Happy to get $5 off, or go to magicspoon.com/Mr. Happy to save $5 on your order. It even works in Canada and the UK. Thanks again to Magic Spoon for sponsoring, and on with the video. But before talking about quantum, I actually want to talk about something that's a little bit more important than quantum itself, and that was the addition of Pilgrim's Traverse, the latest Deep Dungeon. Now, Deep Dungeons, like most of the tertiary content in Final Fantasy XIV, has often been a mixed bag. It's had different places and opinions over time. People who are grateful that they've come to exist. I mean, entire communities that have been brought up specifically from the solo portion of things like Palace of the Dead and Heaven on High. In fact, I should probably do a history video for people who aren't aware of kind of what the evolution of public opinion was on those things and the eventual kind of birth of the solo community. I would especially love to get some solo people on to talk about that. But Deep Dungeon, when it originally came out, Palace of the Dead, I mean, it is what it is. You know, you're doing 10 floors, killing monsters, going up, and while there's a few random events, it was mostly seen as a leveling feature with the optional challenge mode climb that people could go higher. When Palace of the Dead, you know, up to 200 came out, soloing it wasn't even possible and wasn't even rewarded realistically until 4.0, actually, when they initially added the Necromancer title. But it was always really popular for leveling. Spamming Palace of the Dead floor 51 to 60 would be popular for years after Palace of the Dead came out. And when Heaven on High came out, kind of the same deal. 21 to 30 was really popular, and it's kind of a shame that it's fallen off, because Stormblood doesn't really have any good tertiary methods of leveling, so when Heaven on High stopped being popular for doing that, it kind of just became this big dead zone that everyone experiences when they're trying to level jobs, where you pretty much spam dungeons or do challenge logs or whatever. But if you want to spam something, you really only have dungeons, because nobody's really doing, you know, Stormblood fates in order to level. But then EO came out, and EO kind of, I'll go as far as to say, ruined the reputation that Deep Dungeons kind of had before that. It just was too slow. Players who would have used it for leveling, you know, weren't a big fan of it. And even for the soloers, it was only really appealing to certain types of people who did the solo. So there's just a lot of design issues with it that made Pilgrim's Traverse kind of a scary prospect of even expecting what its release would be. I mean, realistically, after getting EO, I know that when I went through Pilgrim's Traverse, I kept thinking things were going to be a certain way, because I just said, oh, well, that's how they do Deep Dungeons now. And I'm super glad to say that Pilgrim's Traverse did not do that. Pilgrim's Traverse was a true return to form when it came to Deep Dungeons, with some really important quality of life that came with it. Some quality of life that already has me going back and casually doing runs. Like, I am someone who is doing the weekly challenge log. I am someone who is grouping up with other people, and I'm using it as another reason for me me to, you know, farm domes to get all of my relics this expansion. It's another little thing I can do on top of hunts, on top of anything else that I'll be doing in game that kind of works me towards that goal that you all know I've shared my opinion about far too many times. And is that really all it is? No. Let's break down why I think Pilgrim's Traverse is the ideal design of a deep dungeon going forward, and what I still think can be better about deep dungeons going forward. Pilgrim's Traverse has mobs that are very light on the HP. Now, this is especially important up to floor 30 because we want those areas to be very popular leveling ranges. And with an armory bonus, the amount of EXP you get doing those floors is significant. We're talking about like over half a level for just doing 10 to 15 minutes, and that's kind of like doing a roulette, but now in spammable form. Given they got rid of the Aglaia spam, which was really popular at the start of Dawn Trail, having another method that is comparable, if not better, is really good. And the EXP only gets better as you're doing the higher floors. So if you're someone who you are doing your challenge log, or you're trying to climb to 100, you can get a significant amount of EXP, even if you're dealing with wipes on the occasional floors. You only get the EXP actually when you slay the boss and leave, but 71 to 80 with the armory bonus is like a full level. So if you're doing the 70 to 100 challenge log on any given week, do it on a job you can level. You're going to get 3 levels basically just from doing that challenge log per week, plus the little bit of a bonus from the challenge log itself. So it's just a great way to kind of bridge the different gaps. There's plenty of rewards in there, even if most of them aren't progression related. I think almost anyone picking up the weapon from the ether grips, the ether pool grips, is really doing so more for the glam, which they are cool looking weapons, but there's just so much weapon availability in this patch that I'll come back and talk about the actual, item level related rewards later. But you can do that. You can get the weapons. There's like 4 different mounts. There's mounts from getting 8 completions of floor 100. There's the solo achievement. There's the unlock of Quantum. Plus, with all of the checkpoints, it just makes it so everyone I know who has never cared is actually going and giving this an honest try. People who have never completed floor 100 of a deep dungeon are working on increasing their ether pool, and they're getting there. I know some people who are on the 71 plus grind right now, and they're doing it, thankfully, with the changes, in a matched party. That was one of the biggest things, is that you basically, with pugs, could only realistically do up to 30 to 50%. Like Palace of the Dead, you could do up to 50%, but all the other ones, you basically stopped at floor 30. That means you were barely doing a third of the content released in a patch if you weren't someone who wanted that extreme challenge. By the way they've balanced this, which is no doubt easier than the other deep dungeons, and made the availability of the later floors much more accessible, they've basically increased what the majority of people who do deep dungeons will do from 30% to 70 to 100%. And that's such an important change, given that the solo achievements, they're still there. The unlock of Quantum for the hardcore raiders, it's still there. All of these things that you can do, you can unlock, you can get, they're all there. And you feel like going for the rewards inside as well. Like, I don't know about you, but when I did the old deep dungeons, I basically skipped all accursed hordes on the higher levels. Like, unless I was feeling really brave, or I knew I had like a safety or something that wasn't going to go to waste, I didn't bother, because I wasn't going to risk wiping after hours and hours and hours of progression because I wanted to step into the middle of the room and pick up a horde that could have been like some not so useful thing. That was just never going to be the way I use my time. But here, I genuinely feel like looking for those intuitions on the higher floors, looking for the rewards, and then doing the gambit at the end of the run and hoping that I get something decent, So overall, they've really kind of nailed all the previous parts of Deep Dungeon, but getting more people to access them and getting more people interested in them, having that tertiary leveling method, having those extra rewards, and having that kind of carrot on a stick for the hardcore raiders is something that does actually achieve the goal of a deep dungeon for everyone. Now, I said earlier it's not perfect. I think they could still go a bit further. Heaven on High had a different floor layout with that of the giant rooms. And while the individual layout of rooms is really important, especially to people who solo deep dungeons, they need to know what all the possibilities are for a room, where all the traps are. That's part of their discovery process, but it's not that exciting for the average player. Having different room layouts, maybe not just the giant rooms from Heaven on High, but something else, would visually be something that was nice. They've tried something a little different with every different deep dungeon after Palace of the Dead. Heaven on High had the auspices, EO had the dread beasts, and now here we also have the votives. I think the votives are great. They are positive effects more often than not. The Devotion Pomander actually guarantees you either get Immolation or Primordial Flesh, from what I'm told. So that makes that Pomander basically another free floor wipe. And the transformations that you can get are fun. All the buffs are fun. Swift Passage is fun. And the few bad things you can get aren't really that bad. One of them's Gloom, but the floors aren't balanced too poorly, so that Gloom is a real big problem. Plus, you can get Gloom without it anyway. Blind Faith, which makes it so you can't see the minimap, you know, kind of sucks, but not the biggest deal, you know, and I think you can dispel that with a Sight Pomander as well. I actually don't recall if you can, but I think you can. And then I think there's like one other one that's like bad. I don't even. Oh, and then the one that makes it so there's at least one trap in every room. Like you play like there's one trap in every room anyway, so that doesn't really change how you do it. So the negative effects aren't that bad that you can get on floors 31 plus, and the positive effects are so fun that you genuinely have a good time. And at most you go, oh man, if you get something that's bad. It's not like this, oh my god, you've completely crippled and ruined my run. So that's another positive. So new floor layouts, more things to explore like the votives. But quite frankly, I think they need to look at the overall funness of running the content over and over and over again. One of the best things that's happened in recent years is when they do content islands, they release progression that's exclusive to those content islands. Now, they do that here with the Etherpool Arm and Armor, but I would like to see them take it a step further. Maybe you can exchange Etherpool Arm and Armor for grips, and the grips instead can be used on armor. Actual armor, and then that armor can have bonus effects inside of the deep dungeon. And then if they really want to preserve the solo achievement, they make the solo achievement, you know, they add a solo achievement where it's, you know, solo floors 1 to 100 while disabling all bonus effects from gear or something like that. But give players something like, oh, you know, while I'm running through, it's way more exciting. Like maybe when you find an accursed horde, it gives you a chance to get 2 hordes instead of 1. So you have like a treasure hunter piece of armor, or maybe a piece that, you know, on stepping on a trap may negate the effects of traps that you activate. Or, you know, just fun little things like that tie into the way Deep Dungeon works, but only work in there. So then outside of that, it just works like normal. You know, you're not going to take this into a raid and start finding accursed hordes. But I think that's the next step they can take, because reward structure-wise, they could definitely use more improvements in that category that actually make people feel like it's more fun to play on repeat. It's fun to collect something and then do that same thing. On State of the Realm, we did an old school RuneScape comparison where we said that Scurious is a great example. Now, for those who have played, you'll understand this. If you haven't, Scurious is a rat boss that can drop his own spine as an item, and you can turn that spine into a weapon. When you use that weapon, it only works against rats, but it increases the amount of damage you deal against the rats, it increases your accuracy, and then gives you some bonus effects inside of that fight. It's really a weapon that's just only good for then continually killing Scurious, but upon obtaining it, doing so becomes a lot more fun. And that principle, I think, is something that they can exercise a lot more. If they want to maintain job balance in traditional content very tightly, but add fun effects, this is the way to do it. And I think that that's one big improvement they can make to Deep Dungeons. But as a whole, Pilgrim's Traverse is by far the best designed Deep Dungeon in terms of the amount of people who will engage with it, the reward upon returning to it, and the overall prospect value of the content as a whole. And that's before even factoring in that it unlocks Quantum. There's also the floor 99 boss practice, which I thought was great too. You know, I'm not usually super big fans of that, but if they're going to make harder bosses, I think that's probably the right thing to do. So yeah, Pilgrim's Traverse, honestly, like 9.5 out of 10. If I got to give it a number grade, there's just a few small things I would improve, but I'm going to be doing it, you know, week to week, as long as I have time and I don't have other like game releases that I need to play. Like, this is going to be worth my time when I log in every week, and I'll work on getting every reward. Now, I started this video talking about Quantum as well, and Quantum is not as cut and dry of a conversation as Pilgrim's Traverse is. Quantum is what I think people more like in my sphere we're looking at. You know, they're the raiders, we're looking at this variable difficulty thing, and, you know, these 4-man ultimate bosses, all these things that we were told, and just wondering how it was really going to work out. And there are definitely some things I think are successful about Quantum, and there are definitely things I think still desperately need work. And I do put the emphasis on desperately. So Quantum is a variable difficulty content of the floor 99 boss. It's completely separate from the climb. You don't actually fight Quantum on your climb after you climb to 100 once you unlock Quantum. And then it's basically like a 4-player trial. You know, nothing too fancy there. But You can basically give these offerings when you zone into the boss, and the more offerings you give, the more the mechanics change and get more difficult. The core aspect of the fight stays the same, but there's like additional follow-ups, more damage, more adds. The boss has more health. The boss deals more damage. There's all sorts of things that occur. And it just creates this drastic difficulty difference between the bare bottom, which is Quantum 15, and the very top at Quantum 40. And I'll say this as a whole, as a 4-man boss content, much like Criterion, the actual boss is a top quality boss. I mean, I genuinely think the dev team has shown they're better at designing 4-man bosses than 8-man bosses at this point. I know that sounds insane because you can't really do as much with 4-man bosses, but because they can't do as much, they're forced to be more creative. They're forced to put you in more stressful situations, and you can't just hide behind 7 other people in order to, you know, try to squeak on through. You really have to want to put in the time, and that's your exchange for needing to gather less overall people in order to tackle the content. I'll also say that the Quantum 15 boss is a great boss. Like, I went into Quantum 15 after 40, and I was shocked that it was mostly the same fight, just with a little bit, you know, a lot less stress. All the same DNA is there. There's just not as many people being marked for things. You don't have to be as stressful about, you know, debuff transferring. The timers are all more generous. There's a lot of things. And so it actually becomes an incredibly accessible, you know, other than the fact you need floor 100 to Pilgrim's Traverse. But if you're someone who's not like a deep hardcore raider, I could very realistically say this helps bridge the gap between extreme and savage. Less people needed and not as stressful of a scenario, but gives you the core ideas of things you will see. So genuinely speaking, if you're someone who is looking for a gap, that you're looking to bridge the gap between extreme and savage, I really recommend finding a group for Quantum 15. There's raid planes out there, there's everything. But the big point of Quantum is that it's variable. You could do Quantum 15, Quantum 20, Quantum 30, Quantum 40. Like, you could do all of that. And that's the thing I'm not really convinced about. I think it's too early to say whether it'll be successful, but I think most people are just going to jump between 15 and 40 because the fights are so similar. Once you understand the basic DNA of 15, then jumping up to 40 is really just a matter of the amount of pressure and pacing and extra damage being dealt. There's not enough like brand new mechanics, because there aren't really any brand new ones. There's just like, it is literally the same mechanics, just without nearly as much stress, that I don't really see the value of all of the other. I don't know what all the other breakpoints are, 20, 25, 30. I thought it was 8 offerings, like 8 offerings and fire would change this. It's not. It's like Quantum 20 is different, or Quantum 25. It's like every 5, it adds something all the way up to 40. And by 40, you also have all of the buffs. So like how you get to Quantum 20 and how you get to 20, like there's definitely value of slowly easing someone into what is definitely a more ultimate difficulty encounter in that of the Quantum 40. But I just don't know how much it'll be used, because I don't think the difference between 15 and 40 is that important. But the encounter itself, brilliantly designed, super fun, highly recommend it, again, to anyone. The only problem is incentivizing you. I think this is the biggest criticism of 4-man content up to this day, and I think it continues to be a problem here in Quantum. And that the reward for any amount of Quantum, 15, 30, 40, doesn't matter, is Sacks of First Light. Now, Sacks of First Light are also gotten from the Challenge Log. And the Challenge Log gives you 5 per week if you clear, I think it's floor 30 and floor 70. Gets you 5 Sacks of First Light. Every clear here gets you a certain amount. It gets you more if you're the party leader, because only the party leader can open the final chest, and only the party leader will actually expend offerings per attempt at Quantum. So if you're doing Quantum 15 with a group of 4 and you all have 40 offerings, you could realistically do 8 runs, because the party leader can do 2, and then you can change party leader, do 2, change party, and yeah, and then you could get a bunch of Sacks of Light that way. And whoever the party leader is gets more. For example, on Quantum 40, I was not the party leader. I got 6 Sacks of First Light. Our party leader got 14 Sacks of First Light. But at Quantum 15, you still just get Sacks of First Light. You just get less of them. And so because of that, it's a little strange, because Sacks of First Light basically only give Relics of First Light, which are pity items, or one of like 2 mounts and 1 other item. I forget what the other item even is off the top of my head. But you're not like getting cool gear or upgrading or doing anything that'll make you show. You're literally just getting those, and if you're doing Quantum 40, you're also going to get a title, the Mourner of Light. That's enough for me to do it a little bit. Like, if somebody wants me to help them with a run, I'll do it any day because it's a really fun fight. Definitely in that same category of, like, you know, if your friend asks to help you with ultimate, like they need some bodies for ultimate, and you're like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. It's kind of that same vibe with Quantum 40 because it's just, I don't have to do anything. They provide all the materials. I just show up and help them. I get a few sacks and I get to have a lot of fun. But they really need to stop being averse to straight up gear side grades when it comes to 4-man content, because there are a lot of people who strictly just don't care. If you can't get something of that caliber, then it just doesn't matter as much to them. And while I think at some point it becomes an excuse to not try new content, like some people go, oh, well, why would I bother? It's like, well, do you not just have fun doing the content? That doesn't mean you shouldn't also strive to ask for better rewards. And sometimes maybe not doing the content is the way to say, hey, no, you're still not giving any interesting rewards, so I'm just going to abstain, because if you see there's less people doing it, maybe you'll ask why more. So it's like kind of that, you know, one way, or it's two different ways to really interpret it. But yeah, I mean, I can't defend it, right? It doesn't matter how much I love the fight, how much I think the difference between 15 and 40 is really well balanced, and how much I compliment Pilgrim's Traverse. Rewards are something 14 will struggle with for every piece of content releases until it accepts that it can let players have a little bit of unbalanced fun, but only in these side contents. I think Quantum could have just as easily, you know, used some of that Pilgrim's Traverse gear if it had some effects that actually just affected boss fights or something like that. And I don't think it'd be the end of the world. And then same deal, if you really want to have like this giga cool achievement, like Mourner of Light style thing, then you just make a way to disable any of those gear buffs, you know, and then as long as they're disabled, then you can get these really, really high-end titles. But for people who want to do it a lot, you want them to have more fun doing it the longer they go. And we've seen examples of this be successful. We've seen it with Bozia. We've seen it with Eureka, when people can get elemental bonus in Eureka, or they can get haste in Bozia, or they start collecting the really rare actions that only come from the harder things, like all of those mixed together is what gives that content a lot of its longevity, because people have a lot of fun doing those like weird, you know, not normal things. Like one of my favorite activities I've ever done in this game was setting up Delubrum normal mode pre-mades to speedrun them in like 12 to 14 minutes, because we could coordinate all the actions people used. It was like literally 3 times the speed of doing it with a pug, so people were really incentivized to be a part of it. And I would run a 1.6 GCD monk with all these super crazy boosts that I was getting, and it was absurd, but it was a lot of fun, because you can't get that experience anywhere else in 14. So you feel a little bit more encouraged to engage with it. And that was what made on content doing all my Shadowbringers relics fantastic. I like, as a, you know, much of a grind as it was, I had a great time because I could explore things like that. And I would love to see that same feeling, or even more, you know, indexed into that feeling, be available for stuff like Quantum, be available for stuff like Pilgrim's Traverse. And then that also helps them with the thing that they're trying to do, is they want content for everyone. If everyone sees that really cool stuff and they want to see what it's like to do it firsthand, they're more motivated to go do the content in the first place. There's the promise of more fun. Borderlands 4 just came out. People just spam the same things over and over again in Borderlands, you know, once they get the raids, because they want to get cooler and cooler guns to do the same things faster. It's a tried and true method that it captures a very specific group of people, and it's something that they have not fully honed in on or committed to, even with places like Bozia and Eureka. So I think Quantum and Deep Dungeon both need that, but Quantum really needs it more, because I really think people need to feel like they can get raid level side grades from doing high-end 4-man content. Variant comes out in 7.4, and we know that something Quantum-esque is being done with Variant. 7.4 is a new item level breakpoint, the final item level breakpoint for Dawn Trail. Just go nuts. Let people get gear side grades from Criterion. And sure, Criterion Savage getting a glowy tombstone weapon is a cool thing, or you know, if they even do it, we don't really know how that's going to work with the whole quantum thing of Criterion Quantum. Like, we don't know how that's going to work. But the point is that let people have as much fun as they possibly can going through. If they can get stuff that makes the running variant dungeon over and over again more fun, great. I would love to see variant roulettes. And then in the quantum mode, if they can get gear that makes running the quantum again more fun, faster, whatever, great. Do that. But make sure that at the end of the day, even if someone doesn't want to do all that, that at the very least they can get upgrades to their gear or side grades to their gear, especially if they're not doing the 8-man Savage, the final tier that's going to be coming out. It can help prepare them for ultimates. That could be another thing, is it could just be another gearing prospect for getting gear for ultimates, which can sometimes be stressful if your luck is really, really bad or you need a lot of upgrade materials or tomes and you want to have multiple jobs prepared. This is the ultimate, ironically, opportunity for them to really show they understand what we said about Criterion. So I'm a little nervous though, because Quantum did not show that part of the feedback. It only showed the actual gameplay oriented parts of feedback. But we need to see the reward parts too, because that was what Endwalker, I think, struggled with most. Some really great new battle content surrounded by no reason to do it. And I don't want to see that happen again. So I think that adequately covers my thoughts and feedback on Pilgrim's Traverse and the new quantum difficulty. So that's going to be a wrap for this video. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one. I do have a couple more thoughts videos coming out, but I will be away at TwitchCon, mind you, so there will be a lack of releases for the next several days. I didn't prepare something for every single day, but I might have some other fun things to put out as well. But thanks for watching. I will see all of you in the next one, and until then, take care.